Yeah, so I want to bring clarity to our listeners on that, because I look at it like in through my lenses is, if you work all year to play in a game, and we'll use baseball as an analogy, and you play all the games throughout the year and you make it to the playoffs and you end up winning the World Series. After you take your month off or 2 months off, what do? You go right back to training. You go right back to training because what do you want to do? You want to win again. You actually want to win again. It doesn't guarantee you. You won. You're the world champions, best team, best baseball team. So you work harder. Then you go to spring training and you work harder and you condition. And then you start playing one game at a time to do it again. Now, if you enjoy what you do and you really buy into the winning mentality and you really care about your fellow teammates, and caring doesn't mean you love them every minute. Caring doesn't mean you're all identical. Caring means that you have the ability to kind of understand and respect the importance of each other and how to work together as a team. Then it doesn't feel like work. And I agree with you. That's right. But I wanted to bring a little more an additional clarity to that, because I think achieving success takes just as amount of time to maintain that. Because again, Walter, to your point, Kodak, Pontiac, they were the number one. Zenith, they were the number one brands. Who's going to tip past them? Do you ever think Pan Am would go out of business? Well, when you see those icon brands getting their ass kicked by someone else coming in, it's because they weren't innovative. They weren't watching that person going, I'm going to train harder. I'm coming in different this time, and I'm going to take them down in those situations. And that's what happened. So it's always constantly us staying on our game as individual leaders, being relevant, right? I get a lot of times questions of, oh, you still go to these events, or wow, you still come out. Like, yeah, like what does that mean? You hit a plateau and you're not going to learn, or you don't want to meet new people or see other people. Look, if you're taking a different chapter in your life or a different direction, I get it. But at the end of the day, of course I'm going to stay in. I want to learn. I want to be, relevant in today's kind of thinking. So those are things I feel, really, really resonate as individual leaders and company as well. Walter, from a standpoint of the power of self-awareness, does that, in your mind, is self-awareness, and what do you think self-awareness is, and does it play a part in the culture that you're a part of?
So, Michael, I totally feel self-awareness is part of the culture. And just to tack on to what Ilana was saying about culture, it doesn't necessarily go on cruise control. It doesn't stay static. It's something that once you're in it and you're living it, it becomes contagious, almost like a virus where it spreads itself. And when you look at this country had a culture of innovation. If it didn't have that culture, I'd be going to Los Angeles via railroad and it'll take me 5 days still.
Right.
But now I hop on a plane and it's 5 hours. That's the way things are in this country, and that's the way you want your company to be as well. Now, like for me personally, one of the biggest things that I do a lot of self-reflection. I live by a lake. I walk around the lake. Sometimes I'll smoke a cigar walking around the lake and just think about myself, where I'm going in life, what I'm doing, and things of that nature. And one of the biggest things that one of the big revelations that came to me some years ago was I need to accept myself for who I am, work on my strengths, acknowledge my weaknesses, and not let my weakness be something that I hide, but embrace it, accept that's part of who I am. because
So do you
people
see, let me
constantly.
ask you, so the weakness, right? Are the challenges, right? Whatever terminology we want to use around that. Um, I have to assume that at one point before you, uh, I'll say, grew as a leader and continue to think differently and more mature in a sense of things, there had to be a time where you didn't want to show that weakness, right? You were embarrassed or you skipped over it. Um, what have you learned now when you had that, and then obviously you've now gone forward with now not, you said, showing that or speaking about that. Why do you think that that's so important for some of your team members or even your colleagues on an executive level to see that? I mean, don't you think that that weakness shows that you're not good, you're not strong, you're not going to be the right leader? What's your thinking on that?
It's the total opposite, Michael. I think we need to show a level of humanity to our colleagues. We need to show we're human. We have to show we're infallible. No, we can make mistakes. We have to show that we're perfect. No, we're human. To err is to be human. And that's something that we need to illustrate to our coworkers, to our fellow associates, to our team members, to everyone around us. You can't live with the illusion of perfection. It's essentially living with a lie. I personally chose to acknowledge that I'm not strong in every possible category. And what I've done for years, I tried to take my weaknesses and say, okay, let me work on them, develop them to make myself better. And what I realized is it's almost counterproductive. If I keep focusing on my strengths and constantly make them stronger, and I have people around me who can work where my weaknesses are, that's what a team is. I'm a big Yankee fan. The Yankee lineup is full of power hitters. That doesn't work. We need guys to get on base. We need pitching. We need defense. You can't be one dimensional. But if you're one dimensional and everyone around you is one dimensional, you're not in the right situation.
Yeah,
And
good.
that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's great. So you see sharing that area of what you're working on to improve the areas that you want to improve, your weaknesses. You see that as a positive, even to share with the teams that report to you. You see that, and I agree with you because some people challenge that and say, well, why would I let the people who report to me know where I'm weak? They're going to take advantage. Well, then I say, well, then you have the wrong people on your team. And where's your trust? Where's your trust in the process, or where's your trust that they're going to look at that and say, thank God you are human. You screw up. That's okay to do those things. So I'm right there with you. I think it's terrific. The Yankee example is just painful now because they're not in the playoffs, so I don't appreciate that one. But Ilana, uh, your thoughts on empathy? How important is empathy in a culture?
Em-
Empathy.
Empathy is everything.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not to be confused with sympathy, because while it's important to be able to, provide supportive, maybe sensitive support to individuals who need it, I think it's even more important to be empathetic, because then you can put yourself in the shoes of another person. And I think that just really connects us all. It makes us human. I love what Walter was saying about, sharing those vulnerabilities to instill trust in those around us, and to, be human and show those weaknesses. And I think it's important to convey those weaknesses, if you're comfortable with it, with the members of your team, because it just brings you closer.
Yeah, that's great. And your thoughts during the pandemic? Did empathy play a bigger part? Not as much? Was it needed? What was your leadership view on that? And is there any areas or examples that you can share that you saw in real time with that?
Absolutely. From a marketing standpoint, it's imperative to be able to empathize with your audience. You want to deliver on the needs that they're looking for. You don't want to over communicate, because you can imagine that, in times of crisis, that people are already seeking out, various media outlets to try and do some research of their own. Maybe they're feeling the fatigue of all of the communications from any brand they subscribe to. You don't want to overburden people, and you want to try to anticipate what they might be going through and just be kind and thoughtful, so that you can be there for them, be that light in a dark time, and can really show that you're listening and you care. So I think with the pandemic, you have this intense shared trauma experienced by everybody at different calibers. And to be able to harness onto empathy, I think really brings us a little closer, because at the end of the day, we're all going through this same experience. Maybe some people have more complications. They're taking care of their kids. They're trying to maintain their job while working from home after working in an office for maybe 20 years or more. And so there's a lot of pivoting involved, and a lot of challenges as far as changes. As I had mentioned before, it's not comfortable for everyone. So if you can empathize and try and put yourself in the shoes of another person and just try and understand what their life might be like, I think that will really help you connect with them and deliver on providing what they need.
Yeah, that is terrific, and I'm so shoulder to shoulder on you with this, especially during the pandemic, that it was so important that we created kind of hope during that time. Because speaking on behalf of our associates in the service business, they personally were going through it, as you pointed out. And some people might not have been able to see their loved ones. Some people have lost their loved ones. Some people had to deal with their ailments of being careful of what they may catch during the COVID time. Then it's some people's environment at home might not be as warm and engaging than other people. And some people lived alone and it was very lonely and quiet. Some, their homes maybe weren't large enough when you're there 24/7 for 6 months. But then your day-to-day job is to service people who are feeling the same thing. And we're getting paid to service them, but at the same time, we're human being in the same point of that. Well, I'm not really sure there's a lot you can do around that except constantly remind that empathy is real and being authentic in that, which creates hope. So, a lot during this time, we had a lot of business conversations around this and figuring out how and what we can do. So, you have your resources, your technology, or layers of other resources you can put in, which is all good, strong differentiators in those areas. But the other part was, I think we got to keep in touch with our people. And that's just, how you doing? Like, really, no, how are you doing? And when that culture goes, the answer is, you didn't do really anything to cure it. You didn't give them the magic pill that made it go away. You kind of knew you weren't going to, but you made someone feel a little bit better. And doing that might have just got them through that one day that it was a little bit more than it was the day before. And that's acting on empathy. That's really acting on empathy and using that to leverage to benefit as a team, and how that team can benefit from that. So I am so right there with you, and we saw it in real time. And by the way, folks, we're not out of this. If you look at history of anything of crisis in history, the actual act of the crisis, if it's a storm of any sort, a hurricane, if it's a horrific fire, a terrorist attack, whatever it is, in the moment is one part of the impact. Then it's the post, and the post lingers because you have time to think about what happened, and then you have to process. So I share this because I wish it won't happen. I wish it doesn't happen, but realistically, I feel the post part of this is going to have some ripple effect. Now, the good news is, this too shall pass. But when? I don't know. Nobody knows. We can predict, but nobody knows. But it's a matter of how are we going to get by together as a team, utilizing leadership, utilizing a culture that is embracing to help. But here's the deal is it's not going to be smooth. People are going to hit different walls. They're going to need different types of areas of what to reach out to. But if your culture of your company or the culture on your team is one of where you welcome conversations, you allow an environment for people to voice their thoughts or their feelings or their emotions at the time, it's healthy. It's healthy. Yes, we all have a job to do. Yes, there is a day-to-day that needs to get done, 100%. During the early parts of the pandemic, it didn't stop the weather. It didn't stop leaks. It didn't stop, things that needed to be done on projects, right? So your day-to-day still had to go on it. But, oh, by the way, we're clumping this on top of it. And you got to deal with that. So I believe a culture is incredibly powerful in times of when you need them. So I want to, end the culture theme with that and thank both of you. Is before though we sign off here. Any last words if you were to sum up, in the future, will culture always play a part, or do you think, culture will at one point not be important in the future? So I'll give each of you, a little time to answer that. So Walter, your thoughts on that?
So, Michael, let me tell you, I'm a big believer in culture. I believe in it in so many different aspects of my own personal life. So my kids are into youth athletics and I coach, and my teams are abnormally successful. We're either winning championships or getting to championship games, and we're beating top tier talent. And we're pulling from a 5 mile radius where we're beating teams that are pulling from a 100 mile radius. And one of the main reasons I think we're beating people is because we have a culture that is nurturing, a culture where we teach our kids to respect one another, respect their teammates, respect the coaches, respect their opposition. And we teach them how to be in a winning environment, to win with dignity and class, to be professional, even at the ages of 8 and 9. We're teaching them how to do that. And we're building that type of culture where we had a circumstance where a player came onto the team who didn't fit in that mantra and caused a bit of a, let's say, a little ruffle in the waves. And that player left the team. And then we went back to being the team we were, where we would just go out there, be supportive. You wouldn't hear negative words from players, coaches towards one another or anything like that. And that is the culture of a winning team. That's the culture of a winning organization. And we have that in children. And if we as adults see that and we use that same formula in our everyday lives, we'll have positive circles all around us and we'll continue to build and grow positively in any endeavor that we take on.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you chose to take it personal, the last part of this, because it does show that culture is in our towns, in our communities we live in, at our churches, our family, our friends, all of the above. Is it and teaching that and paying forward on the next generation coming up sets the tone of the power of culture. So love that you put that in. That was great. Ilana, okay. Will you say something?
Yeah, one other thing, Michael. Yeah, one thing that people have to realize is, like, people think talent is something that you're born with and it may be your birthright. They don't understand that talent is something that you develop. It's something that you can improve from day one till whatever your last day is. That's something you can develop and it will evolve with you. And that's what culture is. Culture is not something that is static. Once it's created, it sits. It's something that you have to constantly evolve and grow. And that's what my thinking is with my teams. And that's what we need to do as an organization. Just continue to evolve. Sorry, Lana, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's
No,
great
that was
added to
great.
it. And again, choice, right? Hard work. That's what I'm hearing on it. On the punchline on it. And this just doesn't come easy. You don't watch a podcast or read a book on culture and saying, okay, I get it. Like, it's action. What are you taking action every day? What are you taking action? That's going to make a difference on your leadership, continuing to develop and rise above the other leaders that you're with. So great stuff. Ilana, your thoughts?
I love everything that Walter said. I wish to echo those sentiments. On top of that, I think that culture is inherently tied to identity. And so, with that, you will absolutely see culture playing a major role with organizations and just with individuals, and maybe where they identify themselves and how they operate. I think that culture will really shape the future organizations of the world, and I think the strongest cultures in those organizations will reap the rewards of the success they sow. And I think that it leaves a profound impact on the people that are involved in those communities, in those organizations, and it just improves their quality of life overall. So I love the real life application of Walter with his coaching his baseball teams. And I think that if we can take that message of focusing on growth, fostering respect, being kind, having empathy, and moving forward, that we're going to see a lot of incredible things in the future.
That's great, and a great ending, because I think, again, people who feel, keep your home issues at home and keep your work issues at work. I think there's not a realistic thought process there, because we're human. We take those into both ends because we're human. It's very difficult to detach from something that you care about. If it's your family, how do you not take it to work? If you care about your work and you're passionate about your work, how do you not come home if you're happy or not? Or if you're unhappy, how does it not affect your home life? And again, it's great to hear that, because this just doesn't happen at work. It really is a choice, and it's a lifestyle thought process, a lifestyle change, and we can always improve it. So, we're thrilled to be here. We're thrilled to have these conversations with great people that are bringing different views from it, and we hoping that there are some nuggets that you took with it, and maybe again on the self-awareness, where you can also see where the areas that you can improve and get to the next level. And it's all about get on board. Like, you got to get on board, folks, because if not, the ship's leaving without you, and you're going to stay at the port. So to be able to go out there and venture off, is you got to get on board. So love the topic, near and dear to my heart, and you both did a fabulous job. So it was great spending time with you. All the best, and thank you until we see you again.